and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. In addition today, as always, on 88.1 WBFH The Biff and on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. In Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the village of Franklin, as well as here on Civic Center TV in Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, and the city of Sylvan Lake. In addition, today we're online, civiccentertv.com. We'll try a little bit further on throughout the show to get ourselves on the Facebook. A little bit of technical difficulties this morning, getting ourselves fully connected there. We'll try to get ourselves connected with West Bloomfield Parks, but regardless, go ahead to facebook.com/WBParks and give their team a like over there. A lot of great things going on at West Bloomfield Parks coming up. And as always, joining me today in the Lakes FM studios is Ronnie Dahl.
I'm having a coughing fit.
Oh no. Oh no. Dry throat this morning?
You know, I should take your advice when you said, hey, sing to Trixie in the morning.
Sure. Because
there was not a lot of conversation in my house prior to me coming in because my husband's typically still in bed. Mm-hmm. So I get up, I wake the dog up, and I do talk to Trixie. You know, and I sing her little songs, little ditties, as I like to call them. Sure. I think they should be recorded because my husband's like, you're a wackadoodle.
Yeah, it depends how good they are. Maybe record them and reveal them yourselves, and if it doesn't go very well, then you can say, okay, getting rid of this, no one else needs to see this. But if it does go well, then, you know, use it over and over again, and Trixie will have a good morning, and, you know, you'll be able to. But then again, the recording, if you just use the recording every morning, then you're not warming up your voice every day. So what's the point of that?
Exactly. So I cannot be the only person that sings to my pet.
I sing to my pets specifically to annoy them, and it does bug them. It does bug them. I'm very good at bugging my pets, as I am with people, you know.
Oh, Tyler. But why do you do that if your pets don't like it?
Just to play with them. It's just it's a way of playing. And it's not that they don't like it. It's just that it kind of weirds them out. It throws them off a little bit, and so they go prancing around, running around, rushing all over the place. They get all antsy, and then that makes it easier to play with them and tire them out.
Tyler, I think you should bring your kitty cats in one day.
I think that's a terrible idea for this office, because once they get loose, they'll find anything. They'll start swatting at things. They'll start grabbing at things, biting on cords, and that's the last thing we need in here.
Yeah, but it would be fun because I think they would have a good time with the curtains.
Oh, they'd have a great time with the curtains. They'd have a lot of fun with the curtains. It would also be the last day we'd have the curtains.
Oh, they're like that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, with that, hey, happy Tuesday. It feels like Monday already, though.
It does. It does feel like Monday once again, even though, you know, we just did it yesterday.
You know, you ever have those days where you're like, can the day just be over already?
It's quite a few. You know, it hasn't been as bad lately, but now that I've said that, of course, it probably can go that way. But yeah, there are those days I have where I'm just like, every little thing that happens, you're just hoping that it gets you that closer to the day being over.
Well, because when you start off, it tends to continue throughout the day. But with that, let's hope that it shifts and it gets better because you guys have a big night tonight.
We do. Tonight, 7 o'clock. If you look on our homepage, civiccentertv.com. Unfortunately, I clicked right away from that. Tonight, 7 o'clock, the State of the Communities, 3rd annual State of the Communities. It will be virtual. We'll have leaders from all 4 of our communities here in the greater West Bloomfield area joining us on that program. That will begin at 7 o'clock. It'll be hosted by Brooke Allen of WWJ News Radio 950, as well, and I'll be in here as well as a technical producer of it. And we'll be speaking with Steve Kaplan from West Bloomfield Township, of course. We'll also be speaking with former mayor of Orchard Lake and current city councilman Bruce McIntyre, the mayor of Sylvan Lake, Ben Clark, and Keego Harbor Mayor Brian Lample. They'll be answering questions in a Q&A format similar to what we did last year at Abbott Middle School and what we did at the end of the program the year before. It won't be a full presentation, but the subject matter will be a little bit all across the board, COVID and city and municipal operations.
I remember doing it a few years ago. The first year we did it over at the middle school there. That's when I was on the commissioners, you know, the Board of Commissions there. And it was really a great event. You guys did such a good job. I was impressed. You had the banners made, and you kind of wonder, like, because you're at the mercy of whatever is in the person's background for your interview and your set, and you can't set up everyone's background for them, and it's the look that kind of adds to that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle sometimes. Earlier on in the week, Larry Nyland, our Zoom producer here on the Megacast, and I had been joined by all four of the presenters tonight, all four representatives of the cities and the township, to go over their background, their audio situation, their video, make sure it all looks good and there's nothing distracting in the background or anything that could blow out their video. And so a couple of kinks to work out with a couple of them, depending on where they're at in their home at the time of the day, because of the sunlight situation will be different. But most of those shots look pretty good. Steve Kaplan, I believe, is going to be in his office at the township in that time of day. The sun is not quite shining directly into the office where it would be behind him. So I think all four of the leaders are going to have a good shot tonight, and hopefully no other issues will pop up.
Well, fingers crossed. I mean, I think by now the good thing, this isn't last year, because we're all a year into this and everyone has become pretty tech savvy. But of course, there are always those last minute things, right? Like you never know if your internet goes down or if something happens. So you have to kind of scramble and, do with it what you can. But I think by now too, though, Tyler, people are used to it and they just go with the flow.
Yeah, and then that's what we're going to have to do. If those situations do arise, we'll work through it. Everyone's had to do that over the course of this year. So what we're going to do instead is I'm just going to, make a lot of loud noises on this dark table here of ours by knocking on it as much as possible. Every chance I get today, run in here, knock on the wood a little bit, that we have no technical issues tonight during the State of the Communities.
Well, it's always a good event because we do know there are a lot of things going on, and it's changed too over the past year. So it's really a good opportunity for people to be able to hear directly from the people that are leading our communities on some of these things that are going on. When you talk about behind the scenes, we're scrambling a little bit. We were, one of our guests canceled at the last minute, the Lodge. And I was really looking forward to talking to them because I know they had closed down for a while and they are reopening this week. And, it's really been a struggle for so many of these restaurants to get enough employees for them to continue to work. Yeah, staffing's been a huge issue, not just for restaurants, but for businesses and a number of industries. I mean, we spoke yesterday with the Judson Center and their CEO who had said that they've been having some struggles with staffing, particularly on the social work side. Schools have had staffing issues as well, finding substitute teachers. Over 40% of potential retirees in teaching have retired during this past year, during the pandemic. Many of them taking early retirement, and so school districts have had to navigate trying to replace those teachers while going through this treacherous past couple of school years, year and a half of school. And so it's really across all industries. So to get that inside look at what's going on with one of our local restaurants that's already been through a number of other struggles because of the pandemic, to now have to close again to restaff, to make sure that they're all in line with what they need for their operations and for the COVID precautions, is a really interesting perspective that would be good for the audience to know. Well, and because the Lodge is such a big part of our community here in Sylvan Lake, Keego, and Orchard Lake as well, they don't have the capacity because of their location to, block off the parking lot and put outdoor garden sheds and some of these outdoor patio seatings to be able to accommodate people. They do have a small patio out front, but that's not going to be enough to keep them in business. So but we hope to get them on at one point in time. Yeah. But in the meantime, support them because we know they are struggling. Yes. And so we want to try to keep as many of our businesses up and running during this time as possible. So if you can support local, please do so.
Yeah, it's imperative that we support our local businesses, not just the restaurants, but those in other industries as well, whether that be retail or service industries, because they're all having their individual struggles right now during this pandemic, and collectively as industries, the small business community has been so resilient, and there's nothing better that we could do for them as we're starting to slowly try to inch our way out of this pandemic than to give them a strong foot forward going into the post-pandemic era.
Hey, so if you're trying to keep track, though, of which businesses to visit and not visit, the state of Michigan has a new dashboard. So the state of Michigan has launched an online dashboard listing businesses cited for violating regulations related to COVID-19, as well as the status of their citations. So it's going to be provided by the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration. The dashboard is billed as an effort to streamline reporting of workplace safety violations and to enhance transparency with ongoing information related to COVID-19. So the dashboard is going to be updated every Friday at 3 with full citation documents, a brief description of violations, and where each citation is in the enforcement process. Now, employers cited have 15 working days from the receipt of the MIOSHA citation to contest violations and penalties, and it's going to be on a dashboard, and we put that link on our website, civiccentertv.com. Now, for employers and employees with questions about COVID-19 workplace policies, they can also call MIOSHA, and they've set up a hotline to try to address this issue within our communities, and we have that number on our website as well. And there's also going to be a link if you want to file a complaint against a workplace. Now, keep in mind, though, one of the things with this, this is separate from the health department violations. And I think that's where some of the confusion comes in, because MIOSHA does publicly list their citations where the health department does not.
Yeah, we spoke about that previously with the, I believe it was the president of the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, who had said that was part of the confusion with these regulations for these businesses, is that there are some discrepancies between the regulations in place through MIOSHA and the regulations that are in place through the Department of Health and Human Services. And he credited MIOSHA with having a more of an educational approach to enforcement, where they're going in and saying, look, you have A, B, and C that's probably not the safest for the COVID situation, or is frankly dangerous for it. Here's a way that you can correct it without completely throwing you off, or without throwing you off your business model too much, whereas the Department of Health and Human Services has had a different angle to it, or vice versa. So this dashboard, they're going to be helpful for people to understand the businesses that they may be patronizing that may not be taking things as seriously. It's definitely going to put these businesses on a little bit of notice that, hey, if you are in violation of these regulations, if you aren't continuing to keep safe from COVID-19 as we're getting so close to the end of this, that your name could be out there. And it gives an opportunity for employers and employees to provide complaints to MIOSHA, so that that educational campaign to help these businesses and help these employees forward as we go into another part of this pandemic can help them navigate that with as minimal issues as possible.
And so one of the things, though, keep in mind, MIOSHA is saying about 90% of the complaints they get, they go and check and they find they are in compliance. So they have these ambassadors now that they are sending out to try to educate businesses first. It does seem, when you look at MIOSHA's list, there are a lot of construction companies on that list. So it's really kind of interesting to me that they are posting them. There are so many construction entities versus other businesses as well.
Yeah, it is a little bit interesting that it's so isolated. Why not just have a report that says that they're having they've seen an increase in violations, particularly in certain industries, and put those industries on notice, as opposed to more of an across-the-board thing. Maybe that's just to make this more equitable of a response, so that certain sectors and certain businesses aren't feeling called out necessarily versus others. But it is interesting that there is such an influx of these violations being in one specific industry, and yet everybody is potentially being called out for their violations going forward through this dashboard.
So one of the things I'm online right now trying to look for, so when back in the day I used to have to do the restaurant report card when I worked in Toledo, and we would get the restaurant inspection reports, because a lot of restaurants are being cited right now, but you don't know about it publicly because they're being cited by the health department. So one thing that has happened, I remember doing a big investigation here locally. I know Macomb County for years has put its restaurant inspection reports online for people to be able to view. And Oakland County at that time didn't, but it looks like they've just started over the past year. Oakland County is now putting them online, so that's something that you can go in and look as well if you want to check your local restaurants to see how they're doing, because I did notice there are some restaurants that are being cited for violations. And really, in all honesty, you know, as a regular person, you're more concerned about restaurants, maybe your grocery stores. Where else do you spend a lot of time?
Yeah,
Target. I spend way too much time on Target.
Yeah, retail, restaurants, the pharmacy, places that you're commonly going and commonly interacting either with other people, whether it be employees or neighbors or whatever the case may be, briefly, or interacting with products that you're in close proximity to other people. That's more of where people would be concerned with these violations happening, I would think, than industries that are more isolated to themselves, like those construction industries that I've seen a lot, construction businesses that are the bulk of these violations that you're seeing so far on this MyOSHA dashboard.
Hey, so last week we told you about the new restrictions at Beaumont Health hospitals. If you're going to be visiting someone at one of the hospitals, now Henry Ford Health System has tightened its visitor policies at 3 area hospitals, and it's because of the rise in the COVID-19 cases. So visitor restrictions were reinstated Monday at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit, Clinton Township, as well as Wyandotte. Michigan has seen an increase of 133% in cases the past 2 weeks and a doubling of hospitalizations in that same period. At Henry Ford Hospitals, 245 patients are hospitalized and another 60 were awaiting admission from the emergency department with suspected COVID-19. So there are a lot of changes to their visitor policies. Some of them have to do, you have to wear a mask at all times by staff, patients, and visitors 5 years and older. Anyone who refuses to wear a mask is not going to be allowed to enter the facility. And all patients, visitors, and staff are screened for COVID-19 before entering the facilities. There's a huge long list of some of these restrictions. So the best thing to do if you are going to be visiting someone at one of the hospitals, any hospital at this point in time, pick up the phone, make a call, see what the restrictions are, or go online and visit their website to see what the latest information is on that.
Yeah, and we have a list of some of those, a brief list of some of those new changes at Henry Ford Health System at those 3 hospitals that they've reinstated some of these restrictions on our website, civiccentertv.com. Click on the coronavirus link or go to civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. As we continue to see more health systems in the local area have increased concern with the rise in COVID-19 cases over the last several weeks, as we talked about yesterday. Six cities in Michigan in the top 10 of the highest COVID cases among U.S. cities since the end of February, and Detroit is in that top 5 in the local area. So the concern is valid for these health systems, and they're putting these in place before they really absolutely need to have them, before the hospitals are overwhelmed and they have a potential for bringing a lot of new cases in from having visitors or sending new cases out from the visitors. I think as a precaution, whether or not they actually need to take those precautions down the road because they're going to be overwhelmed with this current spike, they want to take those precautions as early as possible because we are so close to the end here, and having our health systems be overwhelmed in any way would be a major setback as we're so close to the end.
Hey, Thursday, April 1st.
Yes.
Opening day for the Detroit
joke.
Tigers. But the mayor of Detroit has a warning for all of us fans. If you do not have a ticket, stay home do not come into the city. That's according to Mayor Mike Duggan. That means no tailgating outside of Comerica Park, because not only are we in the midst of the pandemic, but new COVID-19 cases have doubled in Detroit in the last 10 days. Health officials say more young people are being hospitalized. So if you think it's going to be one of those opening days where everyone fills up the bars and the restaurants and nobody enforces it, you're wrong. According to Mayor Duggan, we will shut them down, the bars and the restaurants, and we will fine them, and they could have their licenses suspended. So there are, of course, a few lucky fans that are going to be able to watch the game from the stands, but it's a 20% capacity this year. So a lot of social distancing that will be happening there at Comerica Field for the 8,000 or so fans that are going to be allowed to go. Duggan said the city does not want police to write tickets to tailgaters, but they will if they have to. We saw this this past fall with the Detroit Lions. Even though they weren't letting the fans in, people were still planning on going and tailgating, because a lot of people don't go to the games, but they go for the tailgate. That's me.
They go down for the experience. They go down for the fun before and during the game. Just the camaraderie of being around other people that have a similar interest as you. In this case, the Detroit Tigers. And I see the merit in this a little bit, because you want to prevent overcrowding of these businesses, because they're not going to. If they're going to have an influx of business, they're not exactly going to. A lot of these businesses are not necessarily going to say, okay, well, we got to follow the regulations, so everybody stay out. They're going to be, we're getting tons of business. But at the same time, these regulations are in place. These businesses know the rules. They know the risks that they're taking if they don't follow them. And it's on people to be responsible enough to not violate those rules in place, knowing that we're in a pandemic. So there are merits on both sides of this argument, that maybe it's too much of a warning from the mayor of Detroit, but also it's a valid warning because we're still in the middle of the pandemic.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I was planning on going down, but then I think the best thing that's going to help them in this effort is the forecast. Because today is going to be a great day, sunny and 70, windy, but still nice. The cold front's coming through. Thursday, the high for opening day is like 38 degrees.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
I'm like, maybe I don't want to go downtown for opening day. I could skip it one more year.
Yeah, I mean, we skipped it last year, and we didn't really miss a whole lot from the Tigers on opening day last year. I don't think we'll miss a whole lot this year either. It's another rebuilding year for the Detroit Tigers. Yeah. Getting close, though.
Hey, but of course, as a reminder, you can get the latest headlines. Go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and that's where you'll find the latest headlines. And again, if you want to check the citations from the businesses, you can do that. We have those direct links there in the businesses who violate COVID-19 rules. So go ahead and check that out as well. We're going to take a quick break here on the show. When we come back, we have a great lineup for you here on this Tuesday. We're going to be speaking with the president for the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. Boy, sometimes I will say, I hate to put my glasses on. Ooh, These are really super dirty. I need some of that nano magic stuff here.
Let's call Tom Berman up.
I know, right? The president for the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks and the Lansing City Clerk is going to be with us to talk about a series of bills that is going through our state house right now regarding voting. And so we'll get his take on some of those. We'll also be joined with Rob Kalman from the city of Keego Harbor will be with us. There's a big survey that they are pushing right now, trying to get so many people that are impacted by the possible development within Keego Harbor to have a say in what you want to see for the future of the city. So he'll be with us to talk about that survey. Then the 11 o'clock hour, we'll be speaking with the professor from Oakland University who teaches theater. What's that like right now? And also we'll have an artist with us at 11:20, Laurie Tennent, who has an outdoor installation right now. Her work is really amazing, and where you can see that work. And then we'll round out the show talking with our good friend Ron Olson from the DNR. So a big show ahead for you here on this Tuesday, right after the break.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. As a reminder, you can always catch us live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham area municipal access. You can also catch us on Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 on AT&T. And you can listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. And then we also live stream the show on Facebook. Did we get the West Bloomfield Parks on yet?
We have not yet. No, we'll work on that over the next break.
So, but the best thing to do if you can't watch us or listen to us live is go to civiccentertv.com, because that's where we post all of the day's interviews after the show in the afternoon. So there are so many things going on right now across the nation, but also right here in the state of Michigan when it comes to voting. We've all watched what's been happening across the nation. Georgia, of course, making headlines right now with the changes to some of their voting laws. And there are a series of bills right now being proposed here in the state of Michigan, making its way through the state legislature. Some people believe that these proposed bills would suppress our voters' rights. To talk a little bit more about that and so much more, let's bring in Chris Swope. He is the president for the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks and also the Lansing City Clerk. Chris, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me on.
So tell us, before we jump into the politics of this hot button issue, what's the last year been like for you and members of your team? A little crazy, huh?
It's been a little bit crazy. You know, Proposal 3 of 2018 in Michigan, where everyone was allowed to vote absentee without having to have another excuse, combined with the COVID-19 pandemic, just really led to a crazy year. You know, trying to work from home and then trying to run a major election where my staff couldn't be working from home. We're essentially the only department in my city that is still working in the office. Everybody else is pretty much working from home. We were busy day in, day out leading up to the election, and it has let off, but we're still feeling like we're recovering.
Right, and will be for quite some time. I always tell Debbie Binder, our local clerk here, that she and members of her staff needed a long vacation, and hopefully someplace warm on a beach after this past season.
Definitely.
So, Chris, give us a little bit of your background. How'd you come into this position?
Well, I was an Ingham County Commissioner immediately before this, and quite frankly, the county clerk at the time was concerned with my predecessor's performance, so he encouraged me to run. I ran and was able to beat her, so I'm currently in the last year of my 4th term, so I've been doing this for 16 years. Before that, I worked for the Michigan legislature as a policy analyst. I also, for a couple of years, ran a statewide LGBTQ rights nonprofit. And by the way, I grew up in Oakland County. I'm from White Lake.
Oh, well, it's nice to have a fellow Oakland County resident amongst us then. So it's you have a lot of experience. You made it through this past election cycle, but every year we know there are so many politics around the election process. In the ideal world, let's just say you had a magic wand. What would you like to see happen to, have the best voting system in America as someone with your experience?
Well, my focus has always been, and this is since I first ran for city clerk and in my entire tenure, is to make voting easier for every legal voter to cast their ballot. And last year, I promised my residents we would have a safe, secure, and accurate election, and we did that. And it was a big challenge. So some of the things that I'd like to see are making sure that every voter gets an absentee ballot application, and that we do one application a year, takes care of the whole election year for voters, rather than having to complete time and time again for every election. In 2020, we had 3 elections. It makes sense. You want to vote absentee, voters want to vote consistently absentee. But on the alternate side, we need more time to process those ballots. Now, I lobbied the legislature to get more time, and what they gave us was 10 hours on the day before Election Day, and we could only do limited things with the ballots. We could open them and take them out of their envelope, but we had to leave them in the secrecy sleeve. We couldn't run them through the tabulator. So it was an advantage, but we didn't get 10 hours of advantage because we also had to then on Election Day recount the envelopes and the ballots. So we spent a lot of extra time doing that. What I see is we should have a 2-week period where we open the ballots, scan them into the tabulator, and seal them away, and we never touch those ballots again. So when you get to the polls closing at 8 o'clock election night, within a couple of hours of that, we can have results, the unofficial results out, and people can rely on those.
So one thing, Chris, we do know that when it comes to that, maybe a candidate drops out, or, so there are some of these issues with some of these early votes as well. And if word leaks about who is a front runner in a race, some people may say, what's the point of coming out to vote because that person won? So how would you maintain the secrecy around it so that it doesn't jeopardize the entire process?
Well, and you raised 2 good points. Yes, sometimes candidates do drop out, or, well, they can't drop out. They can't remove their name from the ballot, but, maybe they pulled out of a presidential primary. We would have a deadline so that voters can know when their ballot is set in stone, that they can't retract it. So it would probably be that 2 weeks out. But if you're somebody who thinks you have a candidate that might be dropping out of a primary, maybe you don't return your ballot until closer to the election. In fact, I would say there's a large percentage of ballots that don't come in until 2 or 3 days before the election. I think voters are already keeping an eye on that. But the ones that are returned early, those voters we should be able to process those. In terms of the secrecy, my people who are running the absent voter counting board, they're focused on getting the ballots counted, and they are not looking at who's voting for who. They're not looking at those ballots. But we do have the scanner, and there's the software that we have can be locked down so that those results can't be reported until Election Day. So it's a security chain, just like the ballots that we have right now. It's a security chain. We keep track of them, and we make sure that those numbers aren't reported. But let me give you another spin on this. Most of our jurisdictions, I'm one jurisdiction. Well, I'm an 80% Democratic jurisdiction, and it will not surprise you that if we have 10,000 ballots returned, 8,000 of them are for Democrats. So you already know what ballots are returned from what jurisdiction. So some of that is already known by the candidates. And if you're in a race where you're trying to figure out where to use your resources, if you don't know that by the things that are already currently available, you're probably not running a great or likely to be successful campaign. There's not much you can do in the last day or two to tip the balance that you didn't probably know you needed to be done well ahead of the election. And if you had the resources, you would have done them. So, I think this is a false thing. Besides, a number of other states already do this. Colorado processes for 2 weeks ahead. Many other states are processing their ballots ahead of time.
So what would be the best case scenario for you and other clerks? 2 weeks? 1 week?
I think 2 weeks is a very reasonable time period. It gives us time, and that way, I know the political parties want to be able to send challengers in. That way we can do it for a shorter period during the day rather than trying to do a 10 or 12-hour day. We can do, an 8-hour day for 2 weeks, get it done. You want to be able to do things in batches, so you want to know at the beginning of the day, in a system like this, what you're planning to do that day, and be able to close and seal everything up so that it's accurate and balanced.
So some people would maybe argue, why not just make it that day and then you get the results 2 weeks later rather than, 2 hours afterwards? Mm-hmm.
Well, that is an option.
You can't have it both ways. You guys only have so many people, right?
Exactly. I mean, it was a uphill battle and a struggle. The voters and the candidates all want and expect those results shortly after the election, and that delayed results leads to suspicions. People begin to get suspicious of what happened. Plus, there's pressure to get it done. So when you're in a hurry, you may forget to do something, or you may skip a step, or you lose some level of accuracy when you're in a hurry and when the pressure is on and when people are watching. Now, if you have people watching and okay, I have X amount of time and that's enough time to do it, let's just do it in a focused way, work our plan and plan our work and then work our plan, we can get it done.
Chris Swope with us here on the Megacast. He's the president for the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks and the Lansing City Clerk. And with that, Chris, let's go ahead and jump in to the series of bills that are being proposed right now. Of course, one of the biggest one has to do with having some type of ID when you vote. I will say I have to have an ID to pretty much go and do anything. I don't see so much of a problem with this, and I know that a lot of people will say, well, there are so many people that have a hard time getting a legal ID, and I know I've done work with the homeless community. It's one of the biggest things with the homeless is trying to get them proper ID after they lose their ID. Is the bigger question a way to try to get people proper ID to be able to do this process? Because I could probably go in and vote as my sister, right?
And then if your sister shows up, they're going to know something's wrong. But I'll tell you, voter impersonation is so rare. It's not an issue that we see pop up. So right. That's not a big concern that happens. So we're trying to fix a problem that doesn't really happen, number one. Number two, the biggest part of the issue with this is people are voting by absentee ballot. The voters of Michigan overwhelmingly passed Proposal 2 to allow absentee voting for everyone in Michigan. And then the voters of Michigan overwhelmingly used it in 2020 and voted absentee. Now, under these bills, you would have to send a photocopy of your ID with your ballot application, or if you don't do that, your ballot will not be counted unless you later provide a copy of that photo ID. So
right now, what is it? It's just signatures have to match, right?
It's just the signature has to match.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're talking about people, number one, having access to a photocopier. Number two, trusting their
take pictures and
identifiable information going through the U.S. mail, which I find kind of scary. So then you're going to have to put extra. Are you going to send it priority mail, which is $7 instead of a 55-cent stamp because you're worried about your copy of your photo ID? And then we've got it here. So we've got, we had 36,000 people vote absentee in 2020. That's 36,000 extra pieces of paper that we have to file and store for 6 years that has people's driver's license number, everything on it. It's got all of their data on it. I just think it's a very non-secure way of running our process, and it's not necessary. Voter impersonation is not a fraud that occurs on any scale.
Okay, so if we can, if I can play devil's advocate for just a moment, then it seems like maybe the bigger issue here is about cleaning up your voter rolls, because when you're sending out, I will say this past election, if I got one more invite to vote absentee, I'm like, number one, we're in the middle of a pandemic and you are spending all this taxpayer money and sending these thousands of things out. I don't need 5 applications to vote absentee. If I want to do it, I'll do it and I'll request one, but on top of that, it seems like, because I will say my signature changes like per signature. And so for you and your staff and for all of the members of the clerk's office across the state of Michigan, they are heroes, because that would drive me crazy to have to try to verify signatures. I remember working retail eons ago and having to try to verify a signature. You were like, what? It doesn't look like that, or, people break their arm, or they, we just age, and now, mine's a scribble now. But so isn't really the bigger thing about trying to clean up some of these voter registration rolls, because we know when people move, they do not take the time to contact the Secretary of State to say, my address has changed, I no longer live here, I live in Michigan, or Ohio, Indiana, South Carolina, wherever. So isn't that really kind of the bigger problem that needs to be addressed?
That is a problem. A couple of things. You mentioned you might have gotten several absentee ballot applications. I'm going to guess that the one after the first one probably was not sent at government or taxpayer expense. We have lots of private organizations, well-meaning organizations that do send those out independently. So,
well, maybe they should spend that money on feeding the homeless.
maybe. But in terms of the voter list, yes, we do need to make sure our voter list is clean. The Secretary of State has signed up with a multi-state system that will help clean that up. Our system now, you can only really be registered in one place in Michigan, so we have a pretty good statewide system. It's pretty rare for people to be in multiple places in Michigan, because we have one statewide computer system that's tied with your all of your information, your driver's license, your birth date, all that information is tied together. So within Michigan, we have a pretty good system, although still not perfect. The problem is when people move out of state. So, a couple of things. I see, I have in the past sent my list of voters to the post office sent it to a private vendor who runs my list against the National Change of Address database. And people who, according to that, had moved, I was able to send them a notice because that's reliable information that I can use to put them on a cancellation countdown because I have reliable information that they don't live in the city anymore. So we could be doing things like that on a statewide basis, number one.
Is that what you would like to see happen?
I would like to see that. Yeah, I would like to see that done on a regular basis. Although that ties in with Eric, the statewide or the multi-state thing might take care of a lot of that too. But still, you know, the more methods you can use, the more and more quickly you can catch people. You also mentioned signatures. You know, I was able to go after the 2018 election to Denver to look at some of their post-election processes. But they showed us their equipment and some of the processes that they have pre-election in Denver, and they have this scanner, and when a voter returns an absentee voter ballot, they have a computer that actually scans the signature and matches it, and they store 5 or 6 signatures per voter. Here in Michigan, unfortunately, we have the driver's license signature, and then locally we can upload 1 additional signature if we see that there's a significant difference, or if it's someone without a driver's license and that's the only signature we have. We need a system that can maintain multiple signatures, and we need the ability for larger jurisdictions that don't have the time, you know, 36,000 ballots, you know, my folks' eyes were getting numb trying to compare these signatures.
I know, bless their hearts, right? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we need some equipment so that we're, you know, leveraging the signatures that we have and get those processed faster. The way they did it in Colorado was if the high-speed scanner or if the scanner didn't think it was a match on the signature, they had a 2-person team, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat, reviewed that signature against what they had on file to make that determination. So, you know, there are systems in place that are out there with the way we are moving to absentee ballot. And Colorado, by the way, is pretty much an all-male voting state. So as we move in that direction, there are systems and things in place that we need to implement here in Michigan.
Well, Chris Swope with us here on the Megacast. He's the president for the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks and also the Lansing City Clerk. It's been great having you with us. I am one of those dinosaurs, though. I want to go in, feed my ballot into the machine, and get my sticker at the end.
You know, in Lansing, we mail you a sticker. So you'd get a sticker either way if you lived in Lansing.
Oh, see, but for us, it's really a big social event here in Keego Harbor. And it's always right after Halloween. So we talk about our big Halloween display, and it's a good time to get out and see all your neighbors too. So.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, Chris, we so appreciate your time and your perspective as well. It's great to talk to people such as yourself. You're on the inside and you know so much more than we do. And for everyone that is out there complaining about the system, I keep telling them, volunteer.
Yeah, sign up to be an election worker. That'd be great. We love you.
Exactly. You know, because when you get an inside look of how it really works, you'll have a different perspective by the end of the day. So thank you for your time and all of your work as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, Rob Kelman, Keego City Council member, will be joining us on the show to talk about some of the changes that could be coming to the city of Keego.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus-test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. Tyler, I've been getting the emails recently, I believe from the city of Keego Harbor. I'm not sure who they come from, but a lot of postings going on right now. Anyone who's in the city trying to encourage everyone to take part in a survey about what could be the future of our cute little city. And so to get more, because I have a lot of people asking me questions, I figure, why don't we bring in someone who actually knows something other than just the survey, which I've taken a few times. And with us now, let's bring in Rob Kelman. He is the city council member. Rob, I always want to say mayor. So just so you know, it took me forever to get out of calling Sid Rubin mayor. So now you were the mayor, and now you're just, I don't want to say just, a city council member. How do you guys determine who gets what seat?
Well, every 3 years are up for a re-election to city council, and the city council selects at the beginning of the term the mayor for the year. And we rotate. It's a lot of work for a whopping $100 a year. So when you've got a full-time job and a full-time career, it's you know, as much as you want to help your community, we lean on each other and we support one person a year to be the mayor. This year it's Brian Lample.
See, and I like that to have that perspective from you, because I think so many people don't realize that, especially in our smaller communities. We know, like a bigger city like Detroit City Council, you know, each council member probably makes about, I think it's like 90-something thousand, but then they also have a staff behind them. So when it gets down to our little communities, you and all the members of the city council, you guys put out so much of your own time and work to support us, which is basically a volunteer effort.
Yeah, I'll say it's thankless sometimes, but a lot of times people do appreciate it. I appreciate helping the community. Actually, I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it.
Well, we appreciate it as well. And on top of that, we like having people such as yourself, because you do have a business background and you have that outside knowledge that you can bring to our community to make us bigger and to make us stronger and better. Not necessarily bigger. We don't want to be bigger. But one of the reasons we want to bring you on is because obviously right now there is a survey that is going around to all the residents of Keego Harbor to talk about a district master plan. Tell us more about that.
Right. Well, Keego Harbor, we're a whopping less than 1 square mile. And we have Cass Lake Road as part of the Tifa district. And there's a little piece of Orchard Lake Road in there as well. And what we're trying to do is look at how do we want Keego Harbor to look. What's our vision for Keego Harbor, especially the Tifa district, 5, 10, 20 years out? And so what we're doing is we engaged the Gibbs Group in Birmingham, and they did a retail study, and they did a residential study for us a little over a year ago. And they found out some of the potential. And then we continued with an engagement with the Gibbs Group for sort of an overlay of our Tifa district. And we're thinking about ways we can, I don't want to say modernize, but enliven the Cass Lake Road and make it a more walkable feel. So the residents have, when people are building new homes at Keego Harbor, they can walk to a restaurant, walk to a coffee shop, walk to some retail, and enjoy public space. We want to activate some of the public spaces we have. And so we're studying, we formed a subcommittee, if you will, of a couple council members, 2 planning commission members, 2 people from the Tifa district board, and a resident who is a representative of the community. And we met with Mr. Gibbs, and we talked about, let me tell you, he really encouraged us to be aspirational. He said, don't think, well, this isn't going to happen, this isn't going to work. Because what he found is that we have some pretty strong buying power within a 15, 20-minute drive of Keego Harbor, rivaling any town that you'd probably think of. I mean, people think of Birmingham, they think of Bloomfield, but, within that drive, people were, they're coming from Clerks and from other areas to come to some of the restaurants in Cass Lake and Orchard Lake. So we started to look at how can we look at, we want tall buildings, small buildings, we want a village feel, we want a small city feel. And as part of the process, we formed a survey. I got to give a lot of credit to Brian Lample, our mayor. We spent a lot of time with Mr. Gibbs designing the website, so we have a really good survey and a good form. PlanKeegoHarbor.com is the website if people want to take a look at it. And it shows what we're thinking of doing down the road in the Tifa district. It shows some different examples of what can be. And there's a survey associated with it, so we learn from the residents. The more community engagement, the better. I always say that we want to plan for the future, but respect the history. So we don't want to dictate to people and have people say, "Oh, why'd you do this?" I mean, we'll try and get some community engagement and really come up with a good, solid plan. Because I tell you, Ronnie, the development is going to come to Keego Harbor. There's no doubt in my mind that things are going to change down the road. If we think about it in a methodical way and we plan appropriately before shovels hit the ground, and you have some standards, if you will, and you have some ordinances and codes in place, you're going to see some really, really cool, innovative development coming to our city.
And with that, Rob, before we kind of get into what's the next phase after this study, explain to us when you say Tifa district. For those out there who aren't familiar, what does that mean?
Tax Increment Finance Authority. It's without sounding too technical, it's a tax vehicle. It captures money in a certain district. It's bounded by a region, and the money originally was collected because when Cass Lake Road was repurposed, if you will, it went from, I think, a 2-lane to a 3-lane, and it was repaved by 20 years ago. It was a split between, I think, the federal government, the city, and the county, I believe, to help pay for the improvements. And as such, when you bonded it, you had a way to pay back the bond, and that's how it was a tax vehicle. There were some bond attorneys to structure it that way. And so the region really goes from the north of Cass, just on the Waterford border, to just south of Cass and Orchard Lake Road, and there's a T, if you will, that goes into Orchard Lake, where the Tifa district is.
Rob Kalman with us here on the Megacast. He is a council member for the city of Keego Harbor. And with that, Rob, what happens after the study?
We've been going through some iterations, if you will, of an overlay district, a plan that fits on top of what the city master plan is. Will help give some standards to any developer that wants to come to town as to what we consider to be a good use of the land and a good use of the property, and what kind of buildings we'd want, and what kind of walkway and what type of green space we'd want. We found out that walkability is a huge factor for a developer when they're determining where they want to put a property, a new retail store, a grocery store, if you will. Which I hear from people in Keego all the time. Why don't we have a little grocery store here? As you laugh in the background, it's true. People,
I was just going to say that.
And people want to be able to go to a very, very short drive. I mean, sure, you have the Krogers and the Myers and the Aldis of the world, but they have something in town, so you don't have to make a far drive. Would be nice. The walkability is a huge thing. It's the X factor, which a lot of people are looking for, and I've learned that back in the day, I think people. Bob had this term, the yuppies would overpay for things. They would pay a high dollar value for a pair of jeans, and they'd pay a lot for shopping. And if you didn't overpay, you think you weren't getting something of huge value. Today, a lot of families they're stressed with their time. They're stressed with their money. Shopping, it's become a chore for a lot of people. And the fact that, you don't want to run into the big mall. I'm not even talking COVID anymore. You're trying to be in a big, huge space. Having a small retail strip in a city like ours has become a goal for a lot of large retailers. I think a lot of the retailers you see in the shopping centers and, you know, the regional malls, if you will, they're looking, okay, how can we get into a small downtown where people are going to have an experience when they go shopping? So it's not a shore. It's a cool thing. And we're finding out that and people haven't taken these huge trips during COVID, but they're taking day trips because they still want to do things. And we're thinking, what if, you know, Keego becomes a really cool X Factor destination with some really nice shops you can walk through, you can bike through, you have parks nearby. We have a really incredible feature. We're a city surrounded by 2 big lakes in Oakland County. So people can come and they can walk a boardwalk, if you will, between the new development which is going on Orchard Lake Road around Dollar Lake, which is a little inlet before you get to Cass Lake. And we have Franleaf Park behind some of the retail shops on Cass Lake Road. So there's a really interesting way where we can incorporate a boardwalk, activate some of the green space so people in the town have it. And let me tell you something, it's not just drawing people in from other cities, it's creating an increased quality of life for the people that live here.
I would like to see that. I know that I will say when we hear about this, you get excited if you are a resident or if you live nearby. You know, when we bought our house, it was like, oh, you have lake access. Then you're like, what? Well, no, Dollar Lake, but then you don't have a place to park. So, you know, like if you could have Dollar Lake where maybe you can go and rent a kayak or a paddleboard and go under the little bridge out to Cass Lake. Those are things that we would love to see. That keeps you in the community and has you staying in the community, but you have the lake access, then you have the West Bloomfield Trail Network there. 2 beautiful assets for the city of Keego Harbor. But I do know 15 years later, a lot of the things that when we bought our house, they were talking about the future of Keego. And we know there's been a lot of controversy about the mobile home community and it leaving, but that was part of the plan 15 years ago. So these are not things that happen overnight, though.
Right. It takes a long time. People have been talking about, you know, the trailer park. And, you know, I feel for the residents, but it's private property, and the developer is going to start moving that project forward in earnest in the next year. And it's going to be a big change. When people come in from the West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake, Village cities and townships driving through Keego Harbor, they're going to be like, wow. It's going to be it'll be a change. And what we want to do is see what we can do within the Cass Lake Road corridor to keep modernizing, if you will, and still at the same time, like I said, respect the history. There's a little pushback. There are some people that just don't like change. And, you know, one of the things I learned in private business is you have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because things are going to change whether you want them to or not. And if you don't allow some of the change, the developers are they're going to skip Keego. And, you know, to me, it's what planning firm we're working with saying we're a diamond in the rough, if you will. It's and we're not rough, but we're a little dated. We can use some upgrading. And I think, you know, when people see down the road what's coming, they're going to be pretty impressed. I think. I mean, of course, you know, you have some people who've been around for a while that just, like I said, they don't want change. But I think if they took the time to engage and really talk to the developers and to the planning group, they'd see that there's some real positives coming out of this.
We're speaking with Rob Kalman. He is a member of the Keego Harbor City Council, longtime member and former mayor as well. And with that, Rob, obviously, when we're talking about development, how important is it to get the buy-in from our neighboring communities as well? Because as you mentioned, we're less than 1 square mile. I thought we were 1.8 square miles.
No,
we're small.
You know what? When I met people when I first started running for council years ago, they'd say they love the feel. It's like a lot of people I've met were from up north, and they'd come to Keego because they want to have some business opportunity. And we still have that kind of up north kind of vibe, small city feel, close to some big cities. And I have this feeling that when we get through the development, the planning process, we're still going to keep that small town feel with some of the amenities that would make us, a destination for people who want to build a home here or work and live here, and just a few different things. I got to tell you, your question about what do the other cities think? There's some interest. I think they're watching and saying, okay, what can we do? Certain cities like to keep their small town feel. It's perfectly fine. That's their right to do so. I will tell you that the Road Commission for Oakland County, which I don't know if you've had them on your show.
We have.
It's you probably have. They're going to be repaving Orchard Lake Road in not this summer, but the following summer. And so it's going to be a pretty big project. And the debate we're having, not only a debate, a discussion with Sylvan Lake representatives and Orchard Lake Village representatives, and even the Township of West Bloomfield, is the structure and the flow of what Orchard Lake Road is going to look like. And so that's, part of where the neighboring communities are, I think, paying attention is that how the development is going to impact the traffic flow in and out. And there was a traffic engineer that the county hired. And I should mention April 13th at our city council study session. I think the Road Commission is going to do a presentation of what they're looking at for Orchard Lake Road in the coming years. So I think that anybody who's listening or is interested, they probably want to listen to that presentation and watch the video, hear what could potentially come for the traffic flow on Orchard Lake Road. And by the way, when we do Cass Lake Road, I think the next planning phase to continue, so it's an integrated whole city project, is engaging a planning firm to look at how we want Orchard Lake Road to look with the buildings and retail and housing, because it's all integrated today.
Well, we so appreciate you coming on. I know we called you last minute, but this is really getting a lot of talk here within the community of Keego Harbor, because it can have a lasting impact on our community, which impacts all of our communities here within the area. So, Rob, thank you again for your time.
No problem. And plankeegoharbor.com is that website. If any residents or business owners in Keego Harbor haven't filled out the survey, please do so.
Please do so, and it really does only take about 2 or 3 minutes to do so. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by a professor at Oakland University talking about the theater industry. What's that looking like right now, but more importantly, what's it like to teach the next generation going into that industry? This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful, because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. MyBridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
On the Megacast, I'm Ronnie Dahl in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. As a reminder, we're always here Monday through Friday, live 10 a.m. until noon, but then you can catch the rebroadcast of the show throughout the day and the next morning. But also, you can always find previous interviews and previous episodes just by going to civiccentertv.com. Tyler, I cannot wait to go back to the theater.
Yes, yeah, a lot of people can't wait to go back to the theater, whether it be actors or spectators as well, looking to see shows. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of really good shows coming out all throughout our local area and the state of Michigan and all over the country. As we come out of the pandemic, a lot of great creativity. We've talked to a number of artists who have been in theater and come up with really interesting ideas for shows, and it'll be interesting to see how those get put into place coming out of this pandemic.
We have so many talented people here locally, and I know that my previous job, when I was on the road all the time, half the time it was like I was living in Chicago. And, you know, when you travel for work, you go to the office, but then you're on your own in the evening and you're in a city by yourself. So a lot of times I would be able to get some of these last minute tickets to some great shows throughout the Chicago area because I just needed one ticket. So it's going to be great when we actually get our theaters up and running again. But what's it like to try to teach the next generation? With us now, let's bring in Kerro Knox. He's a professor at Oakland University. So grateful to have you with us. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. I just had my second vaccine this morning, so
Very nice.
Ready to go.
How are you feeling?
I'm fine. I had a little headache after the first one, so.
Yeah, they say the second one tends to be the most side effects.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll make it through the next 20 minutes, and then I can collapse, so you're fine.
Well, we appreciate if you can make it through the show, but we'll be watching you for any distress signals. How's that?
That's great.
With that, though, can you tell us what's the last year been like for you?
It has been insane. It's been, you know, sitting around waiting for things to happen and things to change. It's really, you know, I'm the associate director of Oakland University's School of Music, Theater, and Dance. So not only am I teaching theater classes, but I'm also like in charge of all our performances in all three areas. And we just haven't been able to do that. And performing is such an essential part of the students' education, and particularly performing in groups. Because it's one thing to perform by yourself, and Zoom has been able to do that. Recordings have been able to do that. But every single art form of the performing arts is a collaborative art form. And being with other people, performing with other people is really essential. You know, the French horns have to learn how to play with the violins, the balance and the timing. And that's the thing that has really, really suffered. And, you know, we closed down last March and we canceled, you know, 45 performances between then and the end of the semester. And then the fall was just as hard.
So what do you think the long-term impact is going to be for some of your students going through this right now, especially the juniors and seniors?
I mean, it's going to be hard to keep going. But the thing is, it's been the same for everybody all across the country. So everybody has been set back, and hopefully, you know, everybody has found creative ways to keep teaching, to keep learning, to keep at it, and then piling it all in at the end. What we found out in the fall is because outside contagion is so much less, is that through September and October last fall, we just set up and did performances out of doors, socially distancing the performers, putting them in masks, putting them in tennis shoes rather than bare feet. Socially distance the audience is like we made reservations, and these 6 people could sit over here, and this group of 2 could sit over here. Everybody checking in, everybody doing their health checks. And we felt it was really successful. And not only was it great for us to perform, but the audiences, as you said, were so hungry for anything. And we had probably more people coming to see our strings class perform than we normally do, because people, anything that they could see could happen. And so what we decided to do is take advantage of the warm weather that we're in now, and let's hope it stays, of that April and May really are some of the best weather we have here in Southeast Michigan. And so we've gone further and put up a stage outdoors of our building, and we're starting performances next week, and almost a daily and sometimes multiple performances a day of music, theater, and dance in a program we're calling OU Outside the Box. I'm prepared. And we're and we're trying to like cram in almost a whole year of performances into a month. Wow. And it's again, it's a big mix of music, theater, and dance. And you know, some are free, some are ticketed. Everything needs to be. You need to make reservations, no matter whether it's free or not. No tickets are available at the door because we need to do contact tracing. We need to make sure we know who everybody is. And even being outdoors, we have limited seating just because we can only handle so many people.
Kerro Knox with us here on the Megacast. He's a professor over at Oakland University. And with that, what is practice like, though? It's one thing to be able to perform outdoors, but how are practices going? Are those inside?
We've been doing a lot of Zoom rehearsals.
How do you synchronize the music? Because everyone has a different quality mic and a different quality camera.
That's been really, really difficult. In addition to teaching theater, I also play in the steel band and do some other music activities. I do the lighting design for dance, so I'm sort of intimately involved in steel band. We had a specific program that we could record to a track, and we could all record to the same track and have it come back. It was not very satisfying. And so we did a lot of remote practice of just getting recordings, playing with them on our own, coming in to clear things up, working on them one at a time. And then starting middle of March, we started coming and meeting as a group. And the steel band, there's about a dozen of us. And in the good weather, we will all meet outside. And getting together and playing together makes all the difference. On a rainier day or a colder day, half the group will come in and we can fit like 6 to 8 people in a larger room, socially distanced, barriers between us, and play part of it. But it's really been like putting all the pieces together and then at the end finally playing together. There's still, even yesterday's rehearsal, there was still one person not comfortable coming to campus yet and was Zooming in, but we had almost the whole band there yesterday. The weather was great. You know, we wore jackets and shivered a little bit, but it was great. And we're performing next Saturday, the 10th, 2 o'clock performance of the steel band and the African ensemble. With acting and musical theater, they've been doing a lot of individual rehearsals on Zoom to do stuff, but the play that we're doing that opens around the 25th, I think, of April, it's called The Servant of Two Masters. The cast is only 9 people, and most of the scenes are 2, 3, and 4 people. And so we do a scene at a time and in a large room, socially distancing. And the whole show is being directed to be socially distanced so that the actors are always like 9 to 10 feet apart. And it's comedy and it's slapstick so that we're just doing, you know, we're making it very theatrical. This one person slaps and a person 9 feet away reacts to the slap, and that's what you get. The audience is sort of all in on the joke of this is how we have to do it in this day and age. But I think it'll still be greatly entertaining. It's one of the funniest plays ever, and we're excited to be sharing that.
It's so great to have the students still excited about this industry, but are you finding some are dropping out because of the concerns over job security going forward? Because we do know the entertainment business, even pre-COVID, can be very competitive as well.
I mean, yes, it's competitive, but it's not going away, and it's always growing. And one thing that the pandemic has showed us is that people need it, people value it, even if they don't always value it with their pocketbook, but they certainly value it with their time, and they spend their time watching stuff like nobody's business. And so it's always going to be a growth industry. Yes, it's competitive. Yes, it's sometimes hard to break into. But the other thing the pandemic has showed us is that even when we can't get together, people are doing Zoom shows. People are finding other ways to be entertaining, to getting their art form out there. And we will, keep trying to give our students skills, or in my case, learning skills from my students who were way better at anything on Zoom or anything with video recording than anything else. And so that some people did take a year off and are coming back. Our applications are pretty good. We're a little bit behind in some areas, but we're ahead in some areas. The musical theater applications have been through the roof, because I think part of it is that people are saying, I'm deprived from this for a whole year. This really matters to me a lot. I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure I can keep doing this in my life.
So you had touched on it briefly with the students. They are so much more tech savvy than we are. And it has been a blessing that we've had the technology that we've had right now to help get us through the pandemic. But how does that also help your students, your theater students, your music students, to be able to share their talents with the world?
I mean, it just gives them more tools in their toolbox. Is that, as the technology has changed a lot in my lifetime, and with computers and the internet, there's all kinds of opportunities for online sharing of art and music, and all kinds of performing arts. And the fact that students are sort of being forced to find the ways to do that is going to just give them more tools in their toolbox to market themselves in as many ways as possible. No artist really makes it in just one medium. If you're an actor, you're going to do TV commercials, and you're going to do film, and you're going to do theater, and you're going to do television, and you're going to make industrial things, voiceover books on tape, or audiobooks. They're not on tape anymore.
I know, I still say the same thing too, though.
Yeah, but so that just giving them more different ways to use their artistry to eventually make their living. Everything's a bonus.
Kerro Knox with us here on the Megacast. He's a professor at Oakland University. How has the pandemic changed some of the plays and the performances that you're doing? Not in a physical sense, but in the dialogue. Again,
everyone's rehearsing one-on-one. We're trying, again, we're also trying to be politically active in what we're doing, even more so in the whole political situation that's going on with Black Lives Matter, with BIPOC awareness. We're really trying to create. One of the things we are doing, it seems people are doing more of, is more developed work rather than strictly script work, so that there's elements of the individual actor that they can bring to the process, rather than feeling they're just stuck into a role. And we're exploring those things and ways to share that with an audience as well.
So one thing about the industry, the theater industry, sometimes people forget it's a business. And there are so many other avenues for people to explore within the arena, event promoters, agents. Do you guys teach the students about the other opportunities that could be within the genre?
Absolutely. I'm not an acting teacher. I teach design and theater history, and we do have a major in design and technology that our students are very active. All of our students in theater take a little bit of that, but some of them are actually getting their major in that. And it's clearly the most employable part of the theater industry, and again, very portable into other aspects of entertainment, film, TV, events, coordination, catering, all of these things where it's about meeting deadlines, getting the visual aspect of it out there, stuff like that. And again, some of our students come here as actors or musical theater majors, and they see that there's another aspect of theater and they move into that instead, in part because there are fewer people competing, there are more opportunities, there's more flexibility in what we do. And our student designers are just as key in us getting this outdoor stage up. The scenic designers are both students of the 2 plays that are going up there. The costume design is being done by students as well. The sound is being done by students. So they're using a lot of these technical skills outdoors, just as they've been using them on Zoom to get through the rest of the year.
Professor, they're so lucky to have someone with your talent and your expertise and background to be able to help lead them in their next journey. For those that may be listening, how can they find out more information about some of the upcoming performances?
Oakland University Outside the Box Performing Arts Festival. The performances would all be listed on our website, oakland.edu/SMTD, which is the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. Go to the box office. Performances there. We're also still auditioning for incoming students in the fall, and that information could also be found on the website. And we're always open to new audiences and new students.
Well, Professor, we so appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing some of the performances.
Well, thank you very much. Hope you can make it.
We do too. Thanks again. And fingers crossed the weather is going to be nice for you guys. It's good. I don't want to mention that little S word, but we are supposed to get snow tomorrow.
I know. But, we always, all we've been doing in the past year is pivoting, and we'll just continue to pivot. And we know that Mother Nature is going to have her way with us, and we're just hoping that we can find enough time to put in rain dates and stuff like that for the things that do get canceled. Some things will switch to being streamed, but we're really hoping that good weather is on our side as much as possible.
Well, we do so as well. Thank you again for being with us. We so appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll keep the conversation rolling about art. This one a little bit different. Art kind of in the park. In a way. That's coming up next on the Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal. We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Great to have you with us on the Tuesday edition of the Megacast. As a reminder, we are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. You can always catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can always also catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T, and tune us into the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. There's nothing like getting outdoors right now. Hopefully, the weather gets a little bit better. I know, 38. Only in Michigan can it be 70 on Tuesday and 38 on Thursday.
Yeah, that's what we do here. I don't know why. I don't know why we put up with it, but we do. We love it.
Well, for so many of us, because of the pandemic, we've been spending so much more time outdoors enjoying nature. But there's a local artist that has something a little bit creative that she is doing to help you enjoy art while you're out in the park. And with us now, Laurie Tennent. She is an artist here locally. Laurie, great to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Your work is absolutely amazing. For someone like myself, I can barely draw a stick figure. So when we see some of your amazing paintings, it's like, how is that possible? What's your background?
So just to clarify, I'm a photographer.
Oh, I thought you were a painter.
No, and although the presentation kind of does look like a painting, these are actual photographs.
No way!
Yep. I do all these in my studio. So my background is I went to Center for Creative Studies in Detroit. I have a major in fine art photography, and I worked in the gallery business, and had a huge commercial studio for the past 30 years in Birmingham, doing events and all kinds of things. But my artwork has always been a practice of mine. And these are photographs, and like I said, they're shot in the studio.
I will say that's incredible, because I was on looking at some of your pictures and I just thought for sure they had to be paintings. I mean, how do you photograph the detail that you get?
Well, the way I photograph, and I'm working with a lot of like botanists. I work with the people at Belle Isle and the Chicago Botanical Garden, Naples Botanical Garden, and I'm getting really interesting flowers. But they have to be cut and brought into the studio. So it's a very, macro kind of photography. That's why they're so detailed. And I love like Dutch painting and of course, George O'Keeffe, but I'm really interested in the architecture of the plants. So photographing them really close up and then blowing them up large. Most of my pieces are about 48 by 60 or 40 by 90. I mean, they're very large.
What's it like to set up the lighting for your photographs?
It's different for every plant, because see, these are all living, flowers or branches with flowers on them and stuff. So it varies all the time, but it's always fun to set it up.
Interesting in itself. One of the things, though, so if the plants have to be brought into the studio, are you worried about keeping them looking fresh as you're photographing them with the heavy lights over top?
Well, it's I don't always photograph them fresh. So if I love a different flower, I may have it sit around. So for instance, I had somebody send me overnight these beautiful magnolias from South Carolina. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna get that perfect magnolia shot with the white bloom wide open. And it just wasn't happening for me. So I set it aside, which I have files and trays and shelves of things, and it dried for a while, and then it got this really beautiful coffee color, and that's when I photographed it. So nobody throws anything away here. I'm in my home studio now, but I have collections of all kinds of pine cones and branches, and I may use those later in a shot, so they may not be fresh.
So what is your approach to trying to come up with the most artistic and view of the flower or the plant?
Well, I guess it's easier to explain kind of how I got to putting these or planting these images back in the garden. I had my work in galleries, and it was behind glass and maybe, a medium size, like, 16 by 20 or something like that. But behind glass, you really weren't seeing the image, and they would travel around to galleries around the country, and they really weren't getting seen by everybody who appreciates nature. So I saw this show. Chihuly had a glass show in Arizona in the desert, and he had his sculptures right out with all the plants and the cactuses, and I thought, wow, to plant these images back in nature and be able to come up with a weatherproof kind of print so I could do that that's where this concept started. So I worked with different materials and finally got to printing these on aluminum. And so that these images on aluminum where they look like paintings are actually my original photographs, and those get planted out in the garden. So if it snows tomorrow, you can still go see this show. Just bundle up.
That's beautiful. And again, my apologies, because it does say photographer, but I was on your site looking at all your amazing work. And I just can't believe it's a photograph now. I'm like painting because you can manipulate and work with the lighting and the images. But to know that you are doing this through a camera lens is really just astounding. You're so talented.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm super passionate about it. I love it. My mother was a gardener, and we kind of grew up gardening, and a lot of the things come from my own garden. Or like I said, I went right to botanical gardens. So, you know, I can be in the garden with scissors and cut anything I want and bring it home, which is kind of nice. Or people, like I said, are sending me things now or dropping me things off, you know, on my porch. A lot of the garden clubs in the area I've spoken to and talked my work, and so now I'll get calls or texts. We left something on your porch to photo. We know you'll love it.
So Laurie, I'm thinking a couple years ago we were in Provence and we were at a lavender field, and they were doing a photo shoot in the middle of the lavender field, and they had this model, and she was made up. It was just very dramatic. But then you look down and there's a sign, watch out for scorpions. And I'm thinking, as you're out and you're, you know, trying to get your inspiration from nature, have you ever had a situation where you've encountered other members of nature that you weren't so happy to see?
Yes. Well, you know, pollen is all over the place. So that's one of my issues with this, you know, having a total black background. But I had to photograph, I was commissioned from the Morton Arboretum, which is outside Chicago, to photograph some of their trees through all the seasons. So like a crabapple, and I had to do the blooms and then the pods and stuff. But where they had me photograph was in the basement of their library. No internet, no nothing, and I'm taking these live branches downstairs, and I did get a spider bite. So we're very careful now to really kind of check the subjects before I bring them in. And the other part of that that's interesting is when these are out in nature, you will see bugs that come up to the pieces, land on it, and think they're going to get the biggest meal of their life, right? So like a beetle will be pounding his head on my piece, wondering where's his dinner, you know? So it has that cyclical interaction.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. So tell us about, I know that your newest installation is along the Rouge River Trail. How do you pick which photographs you're going to actually, you know, put on display for the public? Are you trying to replicate something that's within the area?
Very often, if, for instance, the show is like at Morton Arboretum, right? I'll work with that garden to get species that are very important to them. Now in Birmingham, a lot of the pieces that are in this show are things I've grown, or they've come from Cranbrook or on my walks through Birmingham. So yeah, I like it to be kind of site specific, so you would maybe not see that dogwood tree in bloom in the winter, but there's this beautiful bloom of what it might look like. For this show, I actually approached the Birmingham Art board and said, listen, like everybody's outside walking and they can't go to galleries or museums, so you know, I'm willing to donate this exhibit, you know, on loan for a year if you guys are interested. And I was really excited that everybody was on board and that we got to place these images.
So what's your favorite one?
It changes all the time. I think in the winter, I loved this one that was on Linden Trail. I will say this giant fern that I did that I found in at Belle Isle in the conservatory. It's probably about 12 feet high when it was growing. And I said, oh my God, I love that. And, you know, the botanist just cut it down right there. And I had to, you know, fold my seats down in my truck and put it all the way from the front to the back of my car. And so it's been a really amazing image, and it is about 110 inches high. We've got a piece of it on the trail, like the tip of the fern. So I do love that piece too.
Laurie Tennent with us here on the Megacast. She's a local photographer, artist. We are so blessed to have you within our community. Again, your photography is just astounding. What advice would you give to other people who see your work and they're inspired by your work?
As far as, you know, advice for people who see the work, just get out in nature and enjoy nature. I want to really, sometimes we're out walking, right? And we're just on a power walk and we're just like going so fast, we're stepping over things that we might not even notice how beautiful they are. So slow down and really enjoy nature and take your kids and your dogs and get out and walk. And, you know, as far as photography goes, to really look up close. You know, we're so busy with our phones grabbing pictures. It's another thing to take a picture, you know, to really concentrate on your subject and explore it in a bunch of different ways besides just, you know, grabbing that photo. And you did mention Provence, but I am teaching in Italy, I hope. I've got a class that I'm doing in Italy in September. So there's a couple of those classes and workshops that you can see on my website.
Please tell me they're not going to be via Zoom, though. Do you get to actually go?
No, live. I was supposed to teach in Santa Fe last year, and it was this course I designed to be at Georgia O'Keeffe's house and photograph inner garden, and it was just the saddest that we couldn't do it. So that'll probably come again in 22, but this year we're really hoping for September in Italy. And so,
well, if you need someone to be an assistant and carry your luggage, I'll be happy to be the person, because we were supposed to go last year, April, and the trip got canceled. And so we're so looking forward to the day that we can get back there. I've been addicted to that show on CNN with Stanley Tucci where he explores Italy. You have to watch it if you're going to be going there.
I really want to know how much weight he gains by the end of it.
I know. Laurie, so it's been so great having you with us. For people that want to get out and see your work, where exactly can they find it?
So the Rouge River Trail through Birmingham kind of starts in Linden Park, which is Southfield and Lincoln, and then it meanders through, goes across Maple, past Quarton Lake. Now, if you are driving down Maple through the city, you can see two of the pieces on either side of Maple, but then it goes around Quarton Lake and then through Booth Park. There's a map both on the Birmingham website and my website, and it's about a 3-mile walk, but you can also do it in parts and go up in town and have lunch or coffee or something. So
make a day out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Laurie, it's been so great having you with us. We're so lucky that you shared your time. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
And enjoy Italy.
Come on with me.
She's going to be surprised, Tyler, when I come knocking on her door.
Oh, yeah. You'll do it. You'll do it, too.
I am really just her work is just absolutely amazing. I haven't been out to the park, but I was on the website. And so, and let's just hope that people really respect the artwork. You know, we live on the West Bloomfield Trail, and I know that when they put up the signs along the trail a few years ago to, you know, just talk about the history of the trail, they kept getting stolen. So they found a new way to secure them. So they've been there for a few years without anyone defacing them or stealing them. And let's hope that everyone respects her work, because we're so lucky to have her in our community.
Yeah, the work she's done, I mean, you just look at the photos behind her in her home studio there, and just look on her website too, and we can provide a link to that in the description for today's interview when we post it to civiccentertv.com this afternoon. The work she does is absolutely amazing. It's like you said earlier when you mistook one of her photos for a painting. That takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of talent to get a photo like that, to edit a photo like that, to have that kind of a look, and to do that with our local nature and have a local exhibit from this artist is really an honor for us in our local area.
The detail is astounding. Hey, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and since we're talking about nature, we'll just keep it going. We'll be joined with Ron Olson when we come back. He, of course, is with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. It is springtime. I can feel it, Tyler.
It's trying to be. It's trying to be springtime. You know, we're getting there. It's almost there. The little stragglers of winter are sneaking back in for one last swing, but we're about to defeat winter. So.
Well, and as the weather gets nicer, it's time to get outdoors. Enjoy Michigan, because if we have to suffer through winter, it was actually a pretty mild winter.
It wasn't bad at all.
February was the worst.
February was, I could take it or leave it, but the rest of the winter, pretty tame this past year, yeah.
But great time to get outdoors, enjoy so many of the parks and things that we have in our backyard and other states don't. With us now, let's bring in Ron Olson. He's the chief of the Parks and Recreation Division for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Ron, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you.
You survived winter.
Oh, yes. Yep. It was, like you said, there was some milder days, a few bad ones, but we plowed through, I guess.
Right. I will say it seemed like the month of February, because it did get so cold, here in our area, we did see a lot of people out on the ice this year compared to previous years, because we had a pretty mild winter in years past.
Yeah, and there was enough cold weather to do ice-related activities and things like that, and ice fishing and skating and things like that. But it lingered on enough where people could engage in that. And we did have snow at times where people could partake in snow activities, but we did experience really a lot of folks that were traveling further north where the snow and whatnot are more reliable. So people were moving around to find that winter experience.
Ron, I will say we take our dog over to Dodge Park number 4 weekly. It just seems like every other day lately. But with that, I don't understand people. When the ice was starting to melt, we had those really warm days. People that would still get out on the ice on their snowmobiles. And I'm just waiting. I'm like, hey, I'm listening for the splash because they're going to fall through. There's really no way for you guys to monitor people getting out on the waterways, right?
No, it's difficult, and we try to warn people, particularly towards the end of the winter, to be mindful of the ice. And a lot of times the news media will put those on. You usually hear about people stranded on ice floes, and mostly on the big lakes, but and occasionally someone does go through. It also, similarly, in the beginning part of the season, we did have some incidents where snowmobiles went through the ice before it was thick enough. And so it's kind of on both ends.
So with that, as we start to head into spring, how are you guys looking when it comes to hiring? I know last year was a challenge.
Well, we've resumed our full hiring of of summer workers. We hire about 1,300 for the system throughout the state. And so far, it's going a lot better than last year. Keep in mind, we were paused, so we didn't really get started till May. And it took a while. We never did fill out all of our jobs. But this year, we've changed our system where you can apply right directly online, and it's much more streamlined. And so far, the reports from many of the park units are positive in terms of applicants. We still have some areas that, depending on their location, that still have opportunities. In fact, I should say that anybody that's listening is looking for a great summer job. There's still lots of opportunity out there, but so far the process and the progress is good, I'd say.
So what type of jobs are available?
Well, the summer jobs, short-term workers, people support the regular park rangers and that, and help keeping the parks clean and tidy, and greeting the public, customer service, working the front gates, whether it's to get people in the right campsites, and certainly doing park maintenance work is a very critical part of what we do, and refuse management and a lot of other things like that all go into making the system work.
Ron Olson with us here on the Megacast. He's the chief for the Parks and Recreation Division with the Michigan DNR. And with that, Ron, do you guys anticipate it's going to be another busy year, or not so much, since more and more people are feeling more comfortable with traveling?
We anticipate that based on the numbers and the indicators so far, that we're already up 30% on our reservations and bookings for camping and lodging. And keep in mind that this time last year was, well, I shouldn't say this time, but up through the early part of March, we were still ahead 30%. And in 2019 into the early 2020 year before the COVID hit, this is 30% above that. So, and we were anticipating last year to be almost a record year. So this year we expect to be very, very busy. And in fact, once we got going June 22nd in full course in terms of people coming out, the number of people camping and lodging really accelerated a lot, and our usership actually of day users increased by 25%. And so, needless to say, we anticipate this year to be a very, very busy year.
Make your reservations early. Hey, by the way, DNR celebrating 100 years. Congratulations.
Yeah, how about that? Yes, that's great. The DNR was created 100 years ago. In fact, we just celebrated year before last, 2019, the 100th anniversary of the state park system, which formed in a different way and then became part of the DNR then. So yeah, it's exciting to think about the legacy and all the great conservation and things that have evolved over that 100 years.
With that, just about another minute here with you, Ron, on the Megacast. Anything else that you want to talk about before we say goodbye, other than to remind people, make your reservations early?
Yeah, just to go out, keep in mind that we still have, the unfortunate dynamics of COVID, and we're asking people to come out and enjoy themselves, but to be mindful of that and social distancing, be patient and all that. But the opportunities will be there in our bathrooms, and all the support things will be open fully as they were prior to COVID, but this spring will be different in that regard. But still, we have to cope with the dynamics of the safety, et cetera.
Right, and I would think more people are going to feel comfortable going out more this year, because by the time we really get the summer season going, vaccinations are going to be available to everyone in the public.
Yeah, we anticipate and hope that the numbers trend in the right direction and all of those sorts of things in the vaccine. And but we, like last year, we experienced huge crowds and visitation in the UP, and that's a good bellwether of people traveling.
Well, Ron, to you and your team, we want to say thank you because you guys are keeping the parks open for us, and it really is such a huge asset for us, and it's what makes Michigan, Michigan. So thank you to you and your team, and we're wishing you the best in the upcoming season.
Yes, great. And on behalf of all of our dedicated staff, we are be open to host people and enjoy themselves.
Well, happy summer to you. That's going to wrap it up for the Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Before we go, quick information about tonight, Tyler.
Yes, 7 o'clock tonight, we will have the State of the Community, Civic Center TV, and our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15. That will do it for today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast.